It can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering paranormal.
He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in things. He meddled in things.
Where will you go next? Just phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Muller.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex Kaiju.
I'm Eli Watson.
And I'm Stephen Myers.
I'm Andrew.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Wolfie.
And you're listening to Cryptid.
Camp.
Fire.
Nice.
Woohoo!
Woohoo.
I think
Can't believe we got that in
six-way
one go.
success.
Oh, man.
Perfect.
Hello
For
everyone,
sure.
and welcome. Welcome to the monster party that is Cryptid Campfire.
Woohoo part.
Woohoo, yeah.
Yes.
Wolf,
Yeah, today we are joined by another podcast called Superhero Stuff You Should Know. Hello,
yeah.
everyone. Happy to
Hello.
be here. Welcome to the campfire. Today we are serving s'mores with strawberry sauce.
That sounds
yeah,
really
alcoholic
nice.
strawberry sauce.
Nice.
Moonshine, and I think we're well. This is the start of something special. I think we're gonna call this bad boy the Pulp Culture Pop-Up.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Snazzy name for it. We're looking to explore and examine the myths and legends of, ancient history and kind of see how it influences modern day entertainment as we know it.
Nice.
Sounds delicious.
Sounds good.
Sounds intellectual.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to Intellectual Campfire, everyone.
We got our glasses.
Use a coaster.
on. Well, anybody? Did anyone want to take it away first? Want to kick this bad boy off?
No, I think you got it, my dude.
Ooh. All right.
Kick
So
it right
well, I
back
was
to you.
thinking reversal. Well, I was thinking, we could take the next 10 to 15 minutes, kind of, tell you what we've been up to during the quarantine, what activities we've been doing to stay busy, what media we've consumed, just real BS to fill time. What do you say?
That's a whole episode, man.
Yes. Yesterday at approximately 3:15 to 3:45, I read about 15 pages. No, I'm joking. Could you imagine?
Oh, boy. That's the pop-up part that we're excited for. But I guess I'll start it off with a question. And I'll pose this question to everybody and figure we could kind of go around the room. And I figure we start with your superhero stuff we should know. Start with Andrew and kind of work our way down. Then go to Stefan, Eli, and I'll kind of pick up with what do you guys think when I say killer worms?
Bad bait.
They're under the ground.
Dune and Beetlejuice.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind.
Killer worms.
Yeah.
King Kong.
I'd say.
Parasites.
I'd say similar thing. Is Tremors a big worm? I forgot.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. That was what I was thinking.
Yeah, I need to bone up
I
on my
think it
killer
counts.
worms.
Killer wormology leaves much to be desired, Wolfie.
It's a growing trend. It started off with 1998 Godzilla. Ferris Bueller was examining the monster worms.
First Bueller.
Oh.
But I think what I want to say is you look at pop culture and you see a lot of weird killer worms,
Yes,
and
all the time.
one
So
that I
many.
want to kick it off with. We have
fiction.
so many examples, but I want to take us to a different time, if you will, a more primitive, stranger time. The year is 1990. It's
Encino
3
Man has
years.
just come out. Sounds horrible.
It's a rough time. We're 3 years away from the Steven Spielberg classic Jurassic Park and all its CGI glory. But it's been 6 long years since we had the classic David Lynch film Dune, which
Oh,
also
yeah.
had giant worms in But it's crazy because it's a little tangent, but Dune's getting a remake, I think, coming out pretty soon, hopefully.
Yeah, it's got a hell of a cast.
Ooh, hell of a cast, hell of a director. One Denis Villeneuve, if you will.
I will.
I think I would say that we're in good hands. Because did you guys ever see Blade Runner 2049?
Oh yeah.
I have not.
40,
And I've also
20 Dune?
never seen Dune.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
You haven't
I
seen the
just-
new Blade Runner,
I know
bro?
clips. I have not seen it, no.
Wow.
You have seen the old Blade Runner, though, right?
I saw it, but I wasn't super into it.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I
God.
can side with
mean-
that. I can side with that. Yeah.
You mean that the scene where Harrison Ford sits at a computer screen for 40 minutes saying enhance, perpendicular, 20,
There's
30,
that last
quick
fight
left.
where the guy is like, it's the dude that says "Tears in the Rain." What's his name?
Yeah,
Rutger Hauer.
Rutger Hauer. He bursts through a wall and is like, "Hey!" And it's like his head is just burst through the wall trying to fight Harrison Ford. And that was like the part I remember the most. Like it's just this really comedic part and
Wow.
otherwise to me kind of slow movie.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
The whole
it's
movie?
crazy because that part wasn't even scripted.
Really? Yeah.
That's just how Rutger Hauer says hello to people.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
real wall, yeah.
I left the camera rolling and magic happens.
I heard the new one's good though. I mean,
Ooh,
I'll watch it.
It's very good. And may I just say, one Ryan Gosling, there's a scene where he meets Harrison Ford. This is not too much of a spoiler because it's in the poster.
Yeah.
They meet each other, and it's kind of this epic stare down. And Ryan Gosling says, "So, you used to be Blade Runner?" Harrison Ford stares at the camera and ushers, "Part time."
But what does this have to do with giant worms?
Well, I want to take it back to 1990 when the movie Tremors
Yeah.
with the young Kevin Bacon came out.
I have also never seen Tremors.
I was predicting
And
this.
It's on Netflix right now.
It's worth a
You haven't
couple
seen it?
watches.
I've never seen Tremors. No.
It's good. I would
Yeah.
say
Yeah, Tremors.
highly recommend Tremors. It's actually the reason why I want to talk about Tremors today is it was the first real instance I could think of where I saw a kind of like a killer worm monster pop up in a movie.
Mm.
And I was just when I saw Tremors for the first time, I was just like mesmerized. I was like, this is a good ass movie. And just the monsters in it are really cool
Yeah.
because it. So let me paint you a picture. The movie is set in Perfection, Nevada, population 14,
Holy shit.
and we follow the adventures of a young Kevin Bacon. We learn of his dreams, his desires. We see him meet and befriend the locals, including Michael Gross and Reba McEntire.
Yeah.
Oh,
Reba's
yeah.
in this?
Yeah, it's a story of a small town boy, trying to reach for greater things. Plus, the horrifying battle of man versus giant underground monsters known as graboids.
Graboids?
And so, a graboid is a sandworm. Picture basically a 30-foot long grub, but it's got a giant beak that helps it dig through rock and soil. It's got no eyeballs. It actually senses vibrations through the ground, and that's how they find their prey.
Mhm.
Which is actually that's in Dune as well.
Nice.
The big worms, they sense vibrations. That's how they, kind of move through the sand. And
So was there inspiration from Dune then on this, or unknown?
Well, that's the interesting thing is because it's kind of a carry through this vibration theme with worms, kind of traveling through, because Dune came out, in the 60s, and then there's the 80s version, and then along the way we'll kind of discover a few more kind of random things that pop up in the worm legend.
Gotcha.
But here's what's crazy. It's not just the giant worm that attacks people. It's got a set of 3 tentacle-like tongues that grab their prey. And these tentacle tongues end in their own set of tiny jaws with tiny little teeth attached.
Oh.
What? Really?
Nasty.
Yeah. And they hiss and they snarl, and sometimes they display as their own sense of independent thought, which kind of raises a lot of questions about biology. They say we want to leave the people with one question before they go home. If you encounter a giant monster that ate people, should you kill it or should you let it go? It's the natural course.
That's really the point of Tremors.
I think you should let it vote.
By the way, so do you think Dune's Sandworm Sandworm, right, was the inspiration that basically Beetlejuice is ripping off Dune?
Well, I think the ones in Beetlejuice are their own separate thing, because if you look at Tim Burton art, he usually draws a lot of serpentine creatures to begin with.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of true. There was one Nightmare Before Christmas.
So
I
yeah,
can see that.
Nightmare
Yeah.
Before Christmas.
Yeah.
James and the Giant Peach, got some kind of snaky things in it too.
Have you seen Deep Rising? Does that count?
Refresh my memory, Stefan.
I forget. I think they're on a boat or a plane, but one of the worm things like goes through the pipes and everything, and it pulls that woman through the toilet.
Oh no!
Oh.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since I've seen it, but I think it's kind of the same stuff.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. Maybe
I forget when it came out.
Yeah, well that'll be pop culture pop art 2. This time with toilet monsters. And as the movie goes on, our heroes, mostly Kevin Bacon, come up with wilder and crazier ways to defeat the menace. And they ultimately succeed. I don't want to, ruin everything for the movie, so I'll leave some details cryptic.
I
You
imagine
spoiled the end, dude.
It's Kevin Bacon, so it's clearly
it's not
gonna
the
involve some
end. It's the journey of Kevin. It's Kevin Bacon's hero's journey, if you
Of
will.
course.
You're like, yeah. So at the end of Harry and the Hendersons, they kill Bigfoot and drive away. But I'm not gonna spoil it for you guys. I'm not gonna tell you what happens.
I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but at the end, Bigfoot learns the power and the fear that John Lithgow inspires. And they succeed with a few casualties along the way, but the Graboids, they would eventually return with a successful, film series, many sequels, including a Wild West prequel.
Whoa.
No, really?
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of tight.
It's called Tremors 4, Back to Perfection.
Ooh.
And they got a lot of the original cast to come back and play their ancestors.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's funny.
Is it a
And-
Shudder exclusive?
Maybe. No, it's a sci-fi exclusive.
I
Just-
got you.
They got their own Sci-Fi channel original series.
Sci-fi, yes.
And so throughout the film series, we learn more about the Graboid biology. Normally, they start life as a worm-like creature. Once they hit a certain point of age and metabolic rate, they cocoon themselves. It's later revealed in the sequels that they cocoon themselves. And then they explode into a small group of, little tiny bipedal Graboids called Shriekers.
Ooh.
And they have
shriekers or streakers, because those
Shriek-
seem like different things.
they shriek around, but they streak around too.
Gotcha.
I now have to ask, in the movie Tremors, is there a single creature called Tremors? We got
Just the
Graboids, we
condition-
got Shriekers,
Yeah, he has
we
the
got
title
Shriekers.
line.
Okay.
At the end of the day, they look at the camera as the sun sets and they say, "Truly, at the end of the day, we are all tremors in the grand scheme of things."
Oh, okay.
They evolve into these bipedal little chicken-like things called shriekers that run around and they eat everything in sight. But the more they consume, the more mass they take on till they actually fall into a food coma, and that's what triggers the next evolution step up the ladder, baby.
So the more
Pretty
food
fun.
comas, the more you're evolved. Okay.
Yeah. And then once they enter the food coma, they grow fin-like spinal shields, and they gain the ability to fly through the air with what I can only describe as fire-spraying farts.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
And then the
All
next
right.
step of the revolution is called an ass blaster. It
Yep.
flies around, it farts fire until it explodes, propelling a single baby graboid egg through the air into the wild, and then the cycle of life begins anew.
Wow.
Mm.
All right.
And that's our talk. That's my TED talk about Tremors. We want to thank you for coming. If you guys exit out to your left, you'll find little gift bags with Kevin
Enlightening,
Bacon's face
bro.
on it. But
Yeah, I'll feel so much more wise.
but that's
I'm scared.
But that's just the pulp culture worm that I wanted to bring your attention, because if you think a giant killer worm that in later in life can fly around with fart fire is crazy, wait till you get a load of this. I present to you the Mongolian death worm,
Oh.
Oh,
Sounds
or
like
Oh,
a great
yes.
band name.
known to the locals, Olgoy Khorhokhoy, which
Whoa.
is
Olgoy
Mongolian for intestine worm.
Oh.
oh,
And it gets that name because it's described as a blood red worm that measures anywhere from 3 to 4 feet. That's said to burrow through the sands of Asia's massive Gobi Desert.
What?
wow.
Oh yeah, baby. And so Mongolian death worms, as I present the info, as I wrap up my conclusion, they resemble bloody intestines. That's how they get their name, because they're said to lay the eggs in the guts of dead camels.
Ugh.
Oh yeah.
You thought they smelled bad on the outside.
Man.
They're said to kill a man with a single bite. And what's crazy too is they've been described as both venomous and poisonous at the same time.
Oh shit.
Whoa.
It's venomous and poisonous.
Yeah, and their venom, it's so poisonous it can corrode metal, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Robots
they,
versus death worms.
they say in the future when the nuclear bomb goes off, not only do you got to worry about the Terminators, you got to worry about the Mongolian death worm. But the craziest thing that's attributed to the Mongolian death worm is that it's said to have an electric attack, able to shoot out lightning,
What?
but not from its mouth,
Oh
from
no.
its butt.
Wow.
And so have all these legends from Mongolian legends of these giant worms that can burrow through sand, are able to kill a man with a single bite, can shoot lightning out of its butt quicker than you can say, holy crap. And I feel like, this, kind of permeates into this, pulp culture obsession with giant worms. So that's my little TED talk, if you will. Giant worms, what's the deal?
What's the deal with that?
Giant worms.
Worth the ticket price. I'm scared.
So was there a movie with the Mongolian death worm specifically?
No, the
should be.
Mongolian death worm is real.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and we actually have had a few expeditions go out to try to find the Mongolian death worm.
What?
It's
Yeah.
How'd it
true.
go?
The lightning part is real, you're saying? I believe a lot of this, but the lightning, I don't know.
That was where we. Yeah, I agree.
Electric
it's,
eels.
It's able to generate the lightning through static electricity as it's traveling through the sand.
This is
Yeah.
real?
So it's like an electric eel.
Like the little when
Yeah.
It's lightning.
it scrunches up and quickly through the sand and builds up all that static cling.
He's like Raiden from Mortal Kombat?
And if it jumps up just right, it can do like his flying somersault attack that Raiden does.
The Superman move.
Yeah, and the investigator Alex was just talking about is a guy named Ivan Mackerlay. And he conducted 3 expeditions. I believe, actually, the last one was in 1995 or something like that.
Here's what's crazy. So, our friend Ivan, he did 3 expeditions, and the first one he did was in actually 1990,
Whoa.
What?
the same year Tremors came out, and he actually brought rhythmic thumping devices with him, based on Dune.
Cool.
Wow.
It's the real life Tremors.
It's the real life Dune.
And it's interesting too, is because we get a lot of info from from Ivan here, because this is the interesting thing about so Mongolian as a language itself is very isolated, and it doesn't share a lot with the surrounding Chinese languages, but it can be translated into Russian, not easily, but it's a hell of a lot better way than trying to figure
Oh,
out,
wow.
because it even uses
I
a
think-
similar alphabet, I believe.
Yeah, the Cyrillic alphabet. Yeah.
Yeah.
That, and I also think that Soviet Russia controlled Mongolia for a little while as well, right?
Because they had some expeditions in the 40s.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually where Ivan had discovered some Russian authors who were scientists in Mongolia, and they had heard stories of the Mongolian death worm. So there's Russian literature with references to the Mongolian death worm from these scientists who went abroad to study all the zoological differences in Mongolia.
Wow.
Whoa.
Holy shit.
And we actually get the all the the idea of the Mongolian death worm and all these stories. They first were published in this book, On the Trail of Ancient Man, by Roy Chapman Andrews, who, I don't know if that name sounds familiar or anything, but
He's the real life inspiration for Indiana Jones.
It's true.
Oh shit.
Whoa.
And he and the book was an account of his journey. It was a funded expedition by the American Museum of Natural History. And it was the summer of 1919 that he went. And so he went over the chronicle, and he actually met with the premier of Mongolia. And then the premier asked that if it was possible, I should capture for the Mongolian government a specimen of the Ali Gorhai Horai, which is the Mongolian term for the Mongolian death worm.
Mhm.
I doubt whether any of my scientific readers could identify this animal. I could, because I had heard of it often. None of those present had ever seen the creature, but they all firmly believed in its existence and described it minutely. And then he goes on to say, it's shaped like a sausage that's 2 feet long, has no head, no legs, and is so poisonous that merely to touch it means instant death.
Mhm.
Whoa.
And so we have that account from Ivan, who found the book and kind of republished it with all these infos of Andrew looking for the Mongolian death. And Ivan took up and we did a few expeditions.
I have some facts about Ivan that are pretty interesting to
Yeah.
share, because the Mongolian death worm wasn't actually the only cryptid that he went looking for. In fact, he made a movie about it. I forget what country he's from, but it's in a different language. And as far as I know, it's only sold.
He lived in Prague.
Oh, Prague, yes. But yeah, so he actually visited. He was one of the people who helped find Dracula's castle, because for a long time we didn't know where it was. So he was one of those guys, and he also did some research into Loch Ness for a while, taking some like sonar devices below the water and stuff like that.
Mm.
But yeah, I guess he's mostly known for his Mongolian deathworm work. Because I think he was the one who published Roy Chapman Andrews's works and translated some stuff from Mongolian and Russian. So basically everything that we have on the Mongolian deathworm basically has come from Ivan.
Nice.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. But also, can you trust all of it? Is he altering the narrative to support his hypothesis?
Or is it, dare I say, everything we know about the Mongolian deathworm is just translations of Russian that itself is a translation of Mongolian?
Wait, was Tremors out yet? Is he just ripping off Tremors and taking it to another country?
Yeah.
He's ripping off Frank Herbert.
Ooh,
Dune
they
Writer.
all ripped off Indiana Jones, though, in 1926.
Oh, weird.
Worms. Why did it have to be worms?
But I guess, if Alex, did you have more to add?
That's about it. Just kind of the legends and the lores, worms, the Mongolian death worm, and also in pulp culture, we have this obsession with killer worms for some reason, and I think it's our primal
Underused.
monkey brains telling us from way back then when Genghis Khan was ruling the world that, hey everyone, look out for the giant worms that shoot electricity out of their butts. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the comedic stylings of Eli Watson.
Oh, hello. So yes, if I may take you on a journey to 1898.
You may.
Yeah. So just picture your life like it is now, but in 1898. Just
Got it.
kidding. Haha, it's different. This is Victorian era England. So, almost exactly the same.
Yes.
This begins a reign of terror that lasts for a couple of months, also known as Dracula.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
But I guess I'm not talking just about Dracula himself, but instead I'm talking about a particular rendition of Dracula
Ooh.
from 1992.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Bram Stoker's Dracula,
Yes.
directed by Francis Ford Coppola.
An
Uh,
Oscar-winning performance by Sir Keanu Reeves in a very believable English accent.
Keanu Reeves
Yes.
won an Academy Award for that movie?
No, he didn't. I was just
Oh,
reading
okay.
that.
I was like, he's not a winner, right?
critically
He won all the
panned.
awards for it.
It's critically panned performance.
in the chest.
No, yeah, that movie gets poo-pooed on a lot, but I'm over here like this is one of the greatest movies ever made. So, and I know Alex will back me up on this.
It's the greatest cinematic achievement, I think, in the history of motion picture.
I don't know, man.
There's an amazing score, though. I gotta say, like, all comedic stuff aside, like Vampire Hunters by I can't even pronounce his name, Wojciech Keeler or something. Like, it's still it's my Halloween playlist, like every year.
Woohoo!
I
And,
like Stokes Drac.
Yeah, oh my God.
Kids call it these days. It's also one of the more faithful ones to the novel.
When I saw this as a kid, I had already seen Monster Squad, and to me, that was Dracula. And then when my parents were watching, because I was too young to be watching it, but I was still watching it, and then it shows like how Dracula looks in this movie, and I'm just like, that's not Dracula. And then I was like upset.
So there's this reincarnation story to it that do you know where the idea of the whole Winona Ryder is like the reincarnation of his wife? Do you know where that comes from? We actually covered that because we did a Batman versus Dracula.
I didn't know that. I don't know that.
It comes from the 1970s Dracula movie that starred Jack Palance, who was the guy who was like, "You are a number one guy" in Batman '89 to Jack Nicholson. So he was Dracula, but it was written by Richard Matheson, who you guys probably know from like I Am Legend.
I Am Legend.
Yeah, so in that version, he was the first one to actually come up with the idea of like, oh, the reason why he's lusting after this woman is because she's the reincarnation of his dead wife. And I think whoever wrote the script for this one was just like, oh, that sounds like a good idea to me, and then he just threw it into this one. But it actually comes from the 70s Dan Curtis produced Dracula movie.
Oh, that's
Nice.
Yeah, Ben's other forte is Dracula.
Not as much as Batman or Sherlock Holmes, but I have love for Drac. So.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, I think Bram Stoker's Dracula is set in 1898. That's the year the novel came out.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it would make sense if that's when it was going for. But then if I can take you back to 1891 to a village in England, there's The Wolfman with Benicio del Toro and Anthony Hopkins.
That one, okay.
Yes. And then I'll take you to 1933 with a rendition of King Kong, directed by Peter Jackson, starring Jack Black and Adrian Brody, Naomi Watts, etc. Mm-hmm. Now picture, you have these three movies that are period pieces with good special effects. They're in the same universe now, and this is how Universal should proceed with its dark universe.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Ooh.
So I don't know. I just kind of I was thinking about this last night because I was like, why don't they just do that? You know, you could have
Andy Serkis and Benicio del Toro.
That'd be tight, actually.
Yeah, except I mean, it wouldn't work